In this section, we consider interruptions as an indicator of not just journalistic aggression, but more generally as a form of conversational analysis. We apply microanalysis techniques to a range of different contexts where interruptions occur. As we are studying the finer details in social interactions through analysis of video, our microanalysis considers not just context, but also types of interruptions as noted in Peter Bohl's interruption coding system. The interruption coding system can be seen as a multi-stage flowchart for microanalyzing political events. The first stage is to establish whether one can identify the first and second speaker, the interrupter and interrupted. From there, the question is whether the simultaneous speech was unintended, in which case there was a false start, or whether the second speaker, the interrupter, disrupted the initial speaker. If both the first and second speaker continue on without disruption, there is an overlap in speaking turns. If this single attempt is successful, then this is a successful interruption. If the second speaker does not succeed, then it is unsuccessful. Complex interruptions occur when there are two or more attempts by the interrupter to speak over the initial speaker. While the interruption coding system is much more elaborated, based upon how extensively one wants to microanalyze these interactions, this four-stage approach is effective enough to provide us with insights into political interactions the public figures have with each other. The first interruption we consider is an audience member heckling by Republican South Carolina Congressman Joe Wilson during a September 9, 2009 nationally televised joint address to Congress by President Barack Obama. This speech concerned health care and was the start of a long-lasting conflict over the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. Here we see a disruption, but not necessarily an interruption, of Obama's speech. Members of Congress from both parties roundly condemned the outburst, and Wilson was reprimanded by the House of Representatives. The reprimand was especially biting as the congressman had not done his homework on the bill, with H.R. Bill 3200 expressly excluding what he was heckling about.
Now, there are also those who claim that our reform efforts would ensure illegal immigrants. This too is false. The reforms I'm proposing would not apply to those who are here illegally. It's not true. And one more misunderstanding I want to clear up. Under our plan, no federal dollars will be used to fund abortions, and federal conscience laws will remain in place. Now,
this interruption represents a classic in the field of international relations, as Professor Robert E. Kelly of Pusan National University, in an interview on BBC Worldwide during March 10th of 2017, had to deal with multiple interruptions, some successful, some not, during his discussion of international politics.
Scandals happen all the time. The question is, how do democracies respond to those scandals?
And what will it mean for the wider region? I think one of your children has just walked in. I mean, shifting sands in the region. Do you think relations with the North may change?
I would be surprised if they do. Pardon me.
That's right.
Pardon me. My apologies.
What's this going to mean for the region?
My apologies. South Korea's policy choices on North Korea have been severely limited in the last 6 months to a year.
In this video clip, we see Texas Congressman Beto O'Rourke being interrupted by ex-Secretary of Housing and Urban Development for President Barack Obama, Julian Castro. The interruptions occur as they debate the specifics of immigration policy during the first 2020 Democratic Party presidential primary debate, hosted by NBC, MSNBC, and Telemundo. In this series of interactions, there are both unsuccessful and successful complex interruptions by the candidates, and successful single interruptions by the moderator, Jose Diaz-Balart.
Congresista O'Rourke, ¿Qué haría usted en el primer día, si usted es presidente, sobre esta realidad que está ocurriendo? What would you do, Congressman, day one at the White House?
Vamos a tratar cada persona con el respeto y dignidad que merecen como humanos. We would not turn back Valeria and her father, Oscar. We would accept them into this country and follow our own asylum laws. We would not build walls. We would not put kids in cages. In fact, we would spare no expense to reunite the families that have been separated already. And we would not criminally prosecute any family who is fleeing violence and persecution. We would make sure...
Secretary, let him finish, and I will give you... But let him finish, please. Yes.
We would not detain any family fleeing violence, in fact, fleeing the deadliest countries on the face of the planet today. We would implement a family case management program so they could be cared for in the community at a fraction of the cost. And then we would rewrite our immigration laws in our own image. Free dreamers forever from any fear of deportation by making them U.S. citizens here in this country. Invest in solutions in Central America, work with regional stakeholders so there's no reason to make that 2,000-mile journey to this country.
Secretary, I'll give you 30 seconds.
Let's be very clear. The reason that they're separating these little children from their families is that they're using Section 1325 of that act, which criminalizes coming across the border, to incarcerate the parents and then separate them. Some of us on this stage have called to end that section, to terminate it. Some, like Congressman O'Rourke, have not. And I want to challenge all of the candidates to do that. I just think it's a mistake, Bethel. I think it's a mistake. And I think that if you truly want to change the system, then we got to repeal that section. If not, then it might as well be the same policy.
Let me respond to this very briefly. Actually, as a member of Congress, I helped to introduce legislation that would ensure that we don't criminalize those who are seeking asylum and refuge in this country. If you're fleeing desperation, then I want to make sure that you're treated with respect.
I'm still talking about everybody else.
But you're looking at just one small part of this. I'm talking about a comprehensive rewrite of our immigration laws.
That's not true.
And if we do that, I don't think it's asking too much for people to follow our laws when they come to this country.
I'm talking about millions of folks. A lot of folks that are coming are not seeking asylum. A lot of them are undocumented immigrants, right? And you said recently that the reason you didn't want to repeal Section 1325 was because you were concerned about human trafficking and drug trafficking. But let me tell you what, Section 18, Title 18 of the U.S. Code, Title 21 and Title 22 already cover human trafficking and drug trafficking. I think that you should do your homework on this issue. If you did your homework on this issue, you would know that we should repeal this section.
This is an issue that we should and could be talking about for a long time, and we will for a long time.
Can we talk about the conditions to why?
Here we see an example of interruptions going back and forth between acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney and Aisha Roscoe of NPR during this October 17, 2019 press conference addressing President Donald Trump's Ukraine activities. Here we see a false start, a successful single interruption, and successful complex interruptions. However, due to the question-asking nature of these interruptions, they might be seen as elaborations before turning over the talking turn more systematically, which can be seen in the nonverbal behavior by Roscoe in her interaction with Mulvaney.
What about the Biden zone, Mr. Mulvaney? Did that come into consideration when that money was held
I don't know your name, but he's being very rude, so if you go ahead and ask your question.
Just to clarify and just to follow up on that question, so when you're saying that politics is going to be involved, the question here is not just about political decisions about how you want to run the government. This is about investigating political opponents. Are you saying
the DNC server
that it's okay for the U.S. government to hold up aid and require a foreign government to investigate political opponents of the president?
No, you're talking about looking forward to the next election. We're talking.
The DNC is still involved in this next election. Is that not correct?
So wait a second. So there's. Hold on a second. No, let me ask you.
Investigate the DNC.
So
right?
Let's look at this.
Is the DNC political?
There's an ongoing investigation by our Department of Justice into the 2016 election. I can't remember the person's name. Durham. Okay, that's an ongoing investigation, right? So you're saying that the President of the United States, the chief law enforcement person, cannot ask somebody to cooperate with an ongoing public investigation into wrongdoing? That's just bizarre to me that you would think that you can't do that.
And so you would say that it's fine to ask about the DNC, but not about Biden. So Biden is running for the Democratic nomination, right? That's for 2020.
That's a hypothetical because that did not happen here.
No,
but I would ask you.
No. On the call, the president did ask about investigating the Bidens. Are you saying that the money that was held up that had nothing to do with Biden?
No, the money held up had absolutely nothing to do with Biden. There's no question, and that was the point I made to you.
And you're drawing a distinction. You're saying that it would be
wrong. There were three factors. Again, I was involved with the process by which the money was held up temporarily. Okay, 3 issues for that: the corruption in the country, whether or not other countries were participating in the support of the Ukraine, and whether or not they were cooperating in an ongoing investigation with our Department of Justice. That's completely legitimate. Yes, sir.
This final interruption occurred during a December 14, 2008 press conference between United States President George W. Bush and Iraqi Prime Minister Maliki at the Prime Minister's Palace in Baghdad, Iraq. Iraqi journalist Muntadar al-Zaidi interrupted Bush, yelling in Arabic, "This is a farewell kiss from the Iraqi people, dog," and then, "This is for the widows and orphans of all those killed in Iraq." While unconventional, the interruption successfully disrupted behavior for a period of time, and thus might be seen as either a single or complex interruption. The aftermath saw al-Zaidi suffered a broken hand, broken ribs, internal bleeding, and an eye injury. Ultimately, this is a reminder of the benefits of a democratic society and a free press that ensures all have the ability to raise questions of their leaders without fearing consequences.
The war is not over. But with the conclusion of these agreements and the courage of the Iraqi people and the Iraqi troops and American troops and civilian personnel, it is decisively on its way to being won.
ولكن مع توقيع هذه الاتفاقية ومع الشجاعة التي يظهرها ويبديها شعب العراق وجنوده وجنود الولايات المتحدة والمدنيين فإننا نقترب كثيرا من هذه النهاية.
شكرا جزيلا.
بغداد
Yes. Okay, everybody calm down. First of all, thank you for apologizing on behalf of the Iraqi people. It doesn't bother me.
It may have been a shoe, yeah.
If you want the facts, it's a size 10 shoe that he threw.
أولا أود أن أشكركم نتيجة الاعتذار نيابة عن شعب العراق أن مثل هذه الأحداث لا تقلقني وبالنسبة للصحفيين إذا كنتم تسألون عن الحقائق فأن مقاس الحذاء الذي ألقي كان مقاس 10.
Thank you for your concerns.
شكرا.
Do not worry about it.
شكرا لقلقكم ولكن أرجوكم ألا تنزعجوا. الآن هل هناك سؤال؟